before the fight with an Instagram post claiming that he made about 20 different excuses, but some of the ones that stuck with me were Wilder possibly had an egg weight, which for those who don't know is a product that you hold in your hand. It's literally shaped like an egg. It's heavy, and it's, for shadow boxing, running, whatever. That he had an egg weight in his glove, that his hand wasn't fully in the glove. And just so we could put this glove crap to rest, like, Teddy, can you explain how hard it would be to put something in a glove with all the commissioners and your opponent's representative watching you get wrapped and gloved up?
The way that the rules have changed, the way that they go about protecting against such a thing now makes it almost just about impossible, because you have inspectors. You cannot, first of all, they give you the gloves when it's just before it's time to glove up. So they keep the gloves themselves, the commission, the inspectors. They keep it themselves, right? And then they give it to you just, a certain amount of time before the fight. And then they don't allow you to glove up until there's an inspector from the commission and somebody from the other corner watching. So I think Rob might even put a picture up of that you could see during that, in the locker room before that fight, the second fight with Fury and Wilder, you saw a representative of, I believe you saw a representative, I don't know if it was in that fight or there was a picture that
From
was out there.
Wilder's team.
Yeah, standing there, watching the gloving. Standing, watching the hand wrapping, watching the gloves get put on. So that is the policy now, that the gloves are kept isolated. They're kept with the commission until just before the fight. And then when you put them on and when you wrap the hands, there's inspectors and there's somebody from the other camp there to make sure that there's nothing wrong done. So that's number one, should be understood. That it's not, there's not something being put in there. It is at a high level now. It has happened, yes. I'm just saying now for it to happen, it's a whole different level of security and things put in place.
Teddy, don't the commissioners also take the, and there's a picture on the screen of Wilder's representatives watching Fury's hands get wrapped and eventually watching his gloves go on.
Yeah, there they are right there.
But as soon as the fight is over, doesn't the commission take the gloves off the fighter themselves and inspect them again before a fighter is allowed to take the gloves home?
Yes, and they initial them. You initial them to make sure that there was no tampering. You initial them. They put tape over it. When you tape over it, they draw on the tape to show that the tape couldn't be replaced. So all those precautions are taken. Basically, you would have to blame yourself a little bit if something was put in there, because you just saw the picture, right? You just saw the picture. And he had his people there watching. So now listen, I will not argue that his glove, there's pictures of his glove looking flimsy and almost unattached. I will not argue that. I will argue that there's a horseshoe in there or a piece of metal in there or anything like that. I'll argue that. Because if it was flimsy and there was something in there, you would have saw it bouncing. It would have been bouncing around, and it would have been making some indentation in the glove, where you would have recognized something like, what's going on in there? Where they got golf balls in there? But no. So, but I will admit that, it looked like a flimsy sort of glove that, and what can do that? In one way, you could hurt your hand with that.
Yep.
Let's point everything out. Could you slap the guy in the face and slap him and then use that to set up another punch? I guess you could. All right. But you could also break your wrist. You also have less of a fist, less of a solid fist to hit somebody with. There's more of a risk of breaking your hand. And also, it's not for power. That's not going to help you with power. Having a limp the way I'm trying to illustrate it here, having a limp glove, right, and a limp hand, and you're doing this, that's not going to induce power. That's not going to enhance power. So could it slap the guy? You want to make that kind of, you want to go there? Okay. But, so I can't speak 1,000% on that, but I can speak close to 1,000% on that there was nothing put in the glove. And then when he went to the point of saying, well, you take it from there, Ken, because that's not the end of it. He actually went down a litany of things that he started to say that were done against him without any real proof.
Yeah, it's actually quite sad because then today I think he came out and Michael Benson says that he hears from Deontay Wilder. Michael Benson tweeted this out. It said, Deontay Wilder's quote, "My water was spiked as if I took a muscle relaxer or something like that. My water was tampered with. It was like I had no control over my body. My legs were weak. I think Mark Breland's got something to do with my water as well, too." And when he put out his rant about the gloves, he also said he had an incompetent trainer who threw in the towel. And to me, it looked like he had only one person that actually cared about him, who actually had experience as a fighter, who's been in prize fights, who knew what was happening, and that was Mark Breland. But you take it from there.
I'm going to repeat what I said months ago when this was, new and when it first happened. Mark Breland's the only guy who cared about him in that corner. He was getting knocked out.
Yes, 100%.
Out. He had just gotten hit a right hand. Fury took a fighter's move back, and then he was coming back in when he got stopped. He was going to come back in and crack a guy that was basically defenseless, just waiting to get cracked. So he was getting knocked out cold. Maybe they should have let it happen and see what happened, but you don't want to do that if you think a guy could get hurt. So part of the responsibility of a trainer is to get him ready to win a fight, but to make sure that he looks out for him during the course of a fight if he can't win a fight, or if he feels he can't and he's at a perilous position that he needs to be looked out for. So I take umbrage with that. I do. I know Mark Breland, over 40 years. When he was the legend of New York Gold Gloves, won about 5 of them. People actually pulled out of the gloves not to face him. I mean, he was just he was like Tyson was later in the amateurs. People would pull out of tournaments not to face Tyson in the nationals, and that's what it was like with Breland. He was knocking everybody out with that right hand. Tall, skinny guy, 6'3", whatever, and a welterweight. He was like a Tommy Hearns, and he was a gold medalist in the Olympics. He wound up winning a welterweight world title in the pros. I mean, this is a guy that understands what needs to be understood when you work in a corner of all the things that to look out for that can happen and what your responsibilities should be. And, he's a good human being. He's a very quiet guy, sometimes too quiet, to be honest. You can hardly hear him. But that's his personality. Nowadays, as I get older, I kind of like that personality more and more. Quiet people. I'm in love with that, actually. Just a quiet, decent guy. And it bothered me when he said he was disloyal to him, because to me, again, he was the one guy that was loyal, looking out for him, saved him from maybe getting hurt.
Teddy, it's one thing to be upset that he threw in the towel. You can kind of understand, okay, you're a little bit upset. But after the dust settles and you've had time to think about it, to then fire the guy months later, which is what he did, now to say that Mark Breland might have spiked his water, come on, Deontay Wilder.
I think it speaks to Wilder's character rather than Breland's. But that's just I'm just saying, and yeah. I'm not there. But I said it. I think it speaks because I think that Breland's character is spoken for already. He's lived a good life. He's been a champion, amateur, pro. Up to that point, he did an excellent job with Wilder, got him to a world title and all those defenses. There was no complaints about him. So now all of a sudden,
that's a good
you know,
point.
now all of a sudden, you don't know about people till they're tested, whether they're friends, whether they're whatever. You don't know till they're tested. This was a test where it wasn't so comfortable, and all of a sudden, maybe he was a scapegoat. It happens. Human beings, the first time that he's tested, what happens? He gets a scapegoat. He puts the blame on someone else. I'm just going by evidence in front of me. I'm not trying to say that I know everything about this guy, but I'm just saying I'm going by what is being available to me, by acts, by behavior, by history, by past. So then for him to make that kind of ugly accusation that he spiked his water, that's troublesome. That's troublesome.
Keep in mind, this all started, Teddy, with the heavy bodysuit, the heavy costume he wore into the round. That was the first one. I mean,
that was the first thing he used as an excuse. That the bodysuit was 45 pounds, if I remember.
On a guy who's 230, 40 pounds, a 40-pound
First of all, it was his choice to wear the bodysuit.
Bingo.
It wasn't Mark Breland's. Mark Breland's didn't design it. It was his choice to wear it. And he wears it, and then afterwards he said the bodysuit was the thing that fatigued me, that drained me. So he goes from that to these excuses or these reasons for his failure now. It advances to this, from that to this. So I tell you, it's a lot of stuff, conspiracy stuff. It's something that Oliver Stone, the great director, might be interested in. Who knows? He's the one who did the Kennedy assassination movie with all the different conspiracy theories. Maybe Oliver Stone would find some of these conspiracies worth looking at to possibly delve into for a movie. I don't know, but again, it's I joke around, but it's sad. It's ugly. It's gotten really ugly that you're saying these kind of things about Breland, who still makes a living in this business. Let's not forget that, Ken. Still makes a living as a trainer in this business. And that this is what he's got to defend. He's got to defend those kind of accusations. The worst that you could throw at somebody in this business, at somebody in any business, that they went and conspired against you and did something to not only have you lose, but to threaten your life. It's very unfortunate. It's ugly.